How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, I'm ecstatic to be sitting across from Matt Wise with Athletes in Action. Matt, welcome to the show.
Adam, thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. Matt, tell me a little bit about Athletes in Action. What is it's a nonprofit, and what is the true focus of what you guys do?
So Athletes in Action is a nonprofit sports ministry. So Cru, Campus Crusade for Christ, is kind of the hub, and really AIA is the sports ministry of Cru. So Cru does a lot of different things. They do family life, they do campus ministry, they have Cru military. So really AIA is a sports-specific ministry to that organization. So
And so does it kind of like Cru is the umbrella over everything, and then Athletes in Action is just one of those.
it's just like how Nike
Okay.
is Nike, but then they have the Jordans.
Got you. You guys are the Jordan.
The Jordans.
Love that. So I guess, one of the questions I have is like, how did you first become involved with Athletes in Action?
Yeah, so I actually came here in 2004, played football here at Georgia Southern, played defensive line, met my wife here. She played soccer. We have three beautiful girls, pregnant with a fourth one coming.
There we go.
But yeah, so we came in and literally my life was impacted my sophomore year of college. Came into a saving faith with the biggest thing about me is my faith. It's what I love, and so faith is what started this journey. It happened my sophomore year of college, and had a career injury my sophomore year. The year App State beat Michigan, we were playing seventh game of the year. Was having a great year. Went to go make a tackle. Lineman fell on my back and tore my shoulder apart. So had 3 surgeries. Tried to come back for my last year, my senior year. Doctor said no. I was like, well, man, what I'm going to do? I'm going to be I desired to be a strength coach, coach football. That last year, we didn't have any like chaplain at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And fell in love with it. The Lord opened some doors. And coming out of college, I had a job offer to go down in Florida and do some medical device sales and make a lot of money. And then I had a job offer saying like, hey, you could come continue what we're doing here at Georgia Southern and be a chaplain and do sports ministry. And I was like, I'm all in. So I always say is I love the Lord. I love sports. Intersection of that is Athletes in Action.
So there's got to be more to this story. When you first came to college, I guess, what was the experience like? And was there something that happened that really turned you to faith?
So growing, now I would say I grew up in church. So I grew up going to church, and when I had a young age, I did I grew up and I really didn't have a father figure. My mom was mostly in my home. My biological father got in a bar fight when I was little, almost killed a guy, went to prison. So, my mom was mostly the sole taker of me. So she got me involved in sports at a young age, and so I was playing sports. So I remember going to church, and I did the whole prayed the sinner's prayer, got baptized, but nothing really changed in my life. I lived for sports. I was going through high school, just loving sports, chasing girls, having a good time. And, really I always said in high school, if I could ever get to college, if I could just play college football, that would be the pinnacle. And that's really what I shot for. So I got a chance to come to Georgia Southern. And getting to Georgia Southern, those first couple of years were amazing. I mean, I loved the tradition here. I wanted to come someplace to win. And it was an amazing experience. What I realized is what I said is like, man, if I could ever get to college, and I always said, have a pretty girl, have a cool whip, and start football, that would be it, right? I was like in high school, that was the dream. Sophomore year of college, I'm starting. I'm dating my wife at the time, pretty girl. And listen, I had a Cadillac Escalade with between 2-inch spinners.
Watch out.
I stopped, they kept spinning. So that was me, right? That was me.
You got it.
I'll never forget just going out after a game and having too much to drink and just thinking, man, is this it? Is this really? I said in high school that if I could get this, I would be fulfilled. And
you still felt something was missing.
And I felt like something was missing. Now, same time, I saw an interview with Tom Brady on 60 Minutes. All right, Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl, right? Dating Giselle, model, right? All the money you could have, right? He had all these things. And they asked him, was like, Tom, you're at the pinnacle. Every guy wishes to be like you. How do you feel? You know what Tom said? basically he said, man, I feel like there's something missing. God, I wish I knew what it was. And so I'm sitting here saying, man, I thought that in high school that if I could get to college, well, I'm here listening to the GOAT, Tom Brady, and he's got money, power, position, fame, all these things. He still is like, there's got to be something more. So I just started thinking, I was like, you know, man, I know I grew up in church. What does the Bible say about these things? What is faith? And so the best way I could describe it is a lot of people look for tangible things. Like, I would believe in God if I saw him. And so would that really be faith? You know? But the way I always describe it is kind of like the wind. You don't see the wind. You can't see the wind, but you feel its presence. And so in college, it wasn't that I saw God. It wasn't like the heavens opened, but it was like I felt his presence, and it changed my life.
Can you tell me about, so, you were going to church. You were going through the motions earlier on. And then, there was something that happened, that night. And then it kind of shifted. What was the difference that you felt between before and after?
Oh, that's easy. 100% desire change. So what I would say is before, I lived, and I say this, that really God to me was this genie in a bottle, this get out of hell free card. That I just wanted to believe in God when it was on my terms. And it was like I only wanted God and wanted things for him if it benefited me. Where what I realized when I really, it's almost like the best way to describe it is saying that when you were real little, say someone's father passed away. On your 18th birthday, your mother handed you this autobiography of his life and said, listen, this book is about your father, and there's chapters in here specifically about you. What are you going to do with this book? You can put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Or for me, I'm like, I want to know about my father. And that's kind of what I would say the Bible is to us, is our Heavenly Father wrote this book about us, to us. And sometimes we put it on the shelf. Well, I was like, I want to dig in and see what it's about. And so for me, as I was searching and seeking, it was almost like God removed the veil from my eyes. And the biggest thing that went from one moment to the next was a desire change. It was the first time in my life that I desired to know who God is, that I wanted to read the Bible to see who this Jesus guy was. It was the first time that I wanted to go to church. It's the first time that I just wanted to love others. And a lot of times before, I was very selfish. It was all about me. For the first time, it was this desire switch that I wanted to, man, how could I love God and love others? And so that was really it. That was the start.
In all of this, I think there's this want to be able to share with others. And, how has it changed being an athlete, when you were coming through versus the athletes that are coming through now? Do you see any difference between, I guess, like, what's out there? I mean, obviously the one that stands out is like social media has completely grabbed over, right?
Yeah, so I feel the same way. The way I feel about So Yummy's Poke Bowl, I want to tell other people about it, right?
Okay.
Like, so I want to share. So I feel that's the same way. Is once you. So I got to share the story I told my
Go ahead,
It's
please.
one of my favorite stories. Okay, so it's the difference of, and for the sake of this, we're going to say a store brand double cheeseburger.
Okay.
If you're starving, right, and all before you is a double cheeseburger, what are you going to do with that thing?
You're gonna take that double
Hey,
cheeseburger.
you're going to get after it, right? And then you're going to think it's what? It's amazing, it's satisfying, it fulfills, because it's really the only thing you've ever had. And so when you taste it, you're like, man, this thing's amazing. And to me, that's kind of like what I believe, what I say was sin is. Sin is this idea of missing God's mark, and we feel like that we can just get that from things of this world. And so in Romans 1, it talks about the issue with man is that we exchange the truth of God for a lie and worship the created things over the creator of those things. So it's like, why would I want to worship something that God created than the one who created that? And so a lot of us, that's what sin is we just love this double cheeseburger. And then one day what happens is Jesus comes along in the ounce of a big old So Yummy Poke Bowl.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And puts it beside that cheeseburger.
That's
now,
right.
Which one are you going to go for?
I have my choice, yeah.
Yep, I'm going for the Poke Bowl, right? Now, what happens once you taste the Poke Bowl compared to the cheeseburger?
You'll never go back.
You never go back. It's amazing. It satisfies more. It fulfills more. It gives you the nutrients you need, and you love it, and I love it. And so to me, that's what happens when somebody tastes Christ. And that's what happened to me in college is once I tasted Christ and saw that he was real and it wasn't this hocus pocus stuff, that I felt the presence and desire change, he was all I needed and he's all I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's what happens in the Christian life every now and then is I'm feasting on my poke bowl and I look back and go, man, me and that cheeseburger used to go back.
Understood.
That cheeseburger used to be good, but what happens when you go bite into that cheeseburger once you had the poke bowl?
You taste that cheeseburger.
And you know what? You're like, man, that cheeseburger just does not taste the same. Right? It doesn't taste, it's lost its taste because I've had something better.
That's right.
And so in the Christian life, I would repent and spit that cheeseburger out, and I would go back and feast upon the poke bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just an example of, a little illustration I have about what it's like in the sense of really tasting Christ and having Christ. And so what I would say the biggest difference today is really just social media. Is like you can get on your phone and have access to things instantaneous. So if you had questions, and I've heard somebody say that usually back in the day, if you wanted to find something out, you had to like really think through it. You had to go to the library, check out a book. Like you had to talk to people. It was a little bit, sometimes you had to just think through those things throughout the day, where now I can just pick up my phone and Google it and I'm going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like there's a huge difference in social media. And I feel like even with our athletes today is coming in is there's so many people that can see, everything you do is just watch at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they live in such a higher demand of pressure today than what we've had years ago, like I had growing up.
Mm-hmm. And it's almost maybe the term idolatry, is that the word, right? Because these athletes, they're playing on a stage that is huge, right? Everybody's eyes is on them. So being able to realize like what you're doing that for, I think is a lot of times the challenge.
Yeah, it's really finding out what's your why. What makes you do what you do. One of the things I love about serving as chaplain with our football team is we have people that come from different faiths and different backgrounds, and everything that I do is volunteer based. I don't force anything on people. We have a great head coach, athletic director, and coaches who allowed me to do what I do. And they realize is that I always say we desire for any of our athletes to be the total athlete. Mm-hmm. And you think, what does it mean to be the total athlete? Well, when you come to college, you get taxed in 3 areas. Physically in your sport, so strength conditioning and practicing. You get taxed mentally with academics and sports psychology. A part that often goes unnoticed is what I would say is the spiritual and character development of young men and women. And so if somebody comes in and they want the spiritual development, I'm going to be there to serve them in that. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's people who are really don't want that, and they're like, I just want to grow in my character. A pastor, Ed Stetzer, said this. He said, never value your ability over your character, because your character will eventually catch up.
One more time.
Never value your ability over your character, because your character will eventually catch up.
Mm.
Perfect example. How many athletes or friends that you know that never made it because bad choices, bad decisions?
I'm sure there's plenty.
There's plenty, right? I think of Johnny Manziel, right? There's plenty of athletes that kind of fit in that category. And we use this program, and I've taught through, it's called Habitudes for Athletes, and it's really just using images that promote leadership and character. For example, the iceberg principle. Have you heard of the iceberg principle?
I have not.
So what you see in an iceberg is the 10% of the iceberg that's above the surface, right? What's below the surface, the 90%, really makes up the whole iceberg. Mm-hmm. So we will say an athlete's skill, their ability that we see on the field, is the 10% above the surface of the water. Mm-hmm. What's below the surface that makes up really them is their character, the 90%. And just like the Titanic, what sunk the ship wasn't what was above the surface, is what's below the surface. So we desire them as you come in, and sometimes it's so easy to focus on your skill, don't forget what holds and is your why at the center of who you are at the bottom, your character. So there's different lessons we do. One of my favorite one is the thermostat thermometer. Have you heard this one?
I have not.
All right. So what's the thermostat do?
Gauges temperature.
Gauges temperature, right? What's the thermometer gauges temperature? What's the thermostat do?
Thermostat changes temperature.
Changes temperature. All right. So if a thermometer tells us it's 70, 65 in here. Mm-hmm. All right, a thermostat makes that happen.
That's right.
So what does the thermostat have that thermometer doesn't have?
information.
Yeah. So it has a power source, right? And
Okay.
so as an athlete or a person, when you walk into a room, all right, do you reflect the temperature around you? Or are you going to be a thermometer?
An athlete is probably going, I mean, you are who you surround yourself with.
Exactly. So what we say is that so many times athletes fail in their character because they reflect temperatures around them and they're not good. What if you walk into a setting and you're a thermostat? If you walk into a room and there's things that's not going on that should be, as Art Russell say, do right, are you the one who sets the temperature of that room and makes it right?
You should be.
You should be, right? And so all we say is if you're a thermostat, you have a power source. Now, I take it deeper in a faith standpoint, and as a believer, I believe that we have a power source that allows us to set the temperature in any room we walk into.
Sure.
So a lot of times we don't have a power source, we don't have our why that allows us to make decisions we do. So that's one of the big things with athletes is helping them understand, like, what is your why? What is it that makes you do what you do? What's your core values that guide your life and your principles? And it's just helping them understand that and develop that as they're in college.
We out here dropping bombs of knowledge.
It's just, my man Adam, you don't realize how the food just makes me want to.
Is that what it is?
It's a part of my power source.
I love that. I love that. You know, how about some challenges, you know, from an organization standpoint that you guys face?
I mean, challenges is always being a nonprofit. It's fundraising.
Yeah.
It's raising money because, you know, we do a lot of great things. We get to go on spring break mission trips. We get to go on summer projects. We do a thing called Ultimate Training Camp where we send athletes to different places. We go to Colorado, Fort Collins, beautiful. And we kind of teach them these principles of how the gospel applies to sport.
Can anybody join? Well, how does that work?
So, yeah, anybody could go, but we specifically look for just taking athletes, because what we say is a lot of times athletes pray before a game and pray after a game, but what happens during the midst of that game? And so what I love saying is, I don't know if you've ever heard seen the movie Chariots of Fire. So Chariots of Fire is sort of Eric Liddell, Olympian runner, and he would actually run looking up smiling. And people are like, why do you run that way? And he would say, well, because God made me fast. And so when I run really fast, it brings me pleasure to bring God glory.
I love that.
And so what we do at Ultimate Training Camp is we try to help athletes understand how they can worship God through their sport.
That's right.
That you don't necessarily play for God as an indentured servant or anything, but if God is with you, then he's in you and you get to play with him.
That's right.
And so it's helping them. So you probably see a lot of times this idea of audience of one and AL1. And it's really just a reminder of who or what do we worship when we play. Do we worship ourselves? Do we worship idols? And I always tell our guys, is like, don't worship a dead pig. Why would you worship a football? Don't worship it, right? It's dead. It brings nothing. Worship the one who created that. And so that's kind of so really it's us. We love sending athletes. Like we go this spring break mission trip. We've went to Cuba. We've been to Costa Rica, Nicaragua. We're going back there this year for spring break, God willing. And what we do is we partner with a company called Filter at Hope, and we go down to these countries who their main thing that they need is clean drinking water. And we go in there. We provide these filters and help them have access to clean drinking water. And then we use that, and we also share our faith. Just like this water is dirty, so are we. Just like this filter cleanses it, that's what Jesus did for us. And so we do that. We play sports with the kids. We have an amazing time.
That's awesome.
But we usually take around 30 athletes, and we have coaches that go. So
take me back. So how initially was Athletes in Action already existing here when you were in school?
It was not. When I was in school here, there was no specific sports ministry. So there was a lot of great churches. We have some amazing churches around Statesboro, and so, but there wasn't anything specifically for athletes and coaches at Georgia Southern. So I always feel that God has kind of raised me and my family up to be missionaries to the people group of athletes and coaches at Georgia Southern. So that's the way I view it and the way I look at it.
And so what was that process like? Did you see that organization and reach out to them, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I would say that I'm a very discipleship-based minded, which means I love getting in the nitty-gritty of people's life. I love life-on-life application. I love, when I was in college, there was a guy who discipled me, and he brought me over to his house, and he sat down, and I remember having, dinner with his family, but I saw how he did a devotion with his family before dinner. I just told myself, it was like, man, this is the type of man and father I want to be one day. And he made an impact on me. He discipled me. He taught me about his life, his walk, and I got to see him live it out. And it was the real deal. And I was like, that's what I want to do one day. And so that's so in my heart, looking for a discipleship-based organization, that was Athletes in Action for me. And so it's been amazing. It's been a dream job. And as far as the Lord willing, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. So Statesboro is home. And so that's kind of what spurred me on to be with AIA.
It's so important for you to be a part of our community. I think especially for these athletes, you do work wonders for them.
Oh, thank you.
One of the questions I have is, what does the future look like? What do you have on the horizon?
So the future, oh man, I love having a vision. I love looking at, like, I'm a visionary when it comes to things. Enneagram, I'm a 7. What are you on Enneagram?
What do you think I am?
A 7?
No, I'm not. I'm a 3.
Really?
2. Yeah.
Nice. So that's, I can see that.
Okay.
I can see that. But as a 7 is man, I'm a people person. I love, I just love getting people together on mission to do things together. So in the vision, this is the first year. I've had a lot of interns with AI, but this is the first year that I have a full staff team. And so I'm on full-time staff. My wife is. We have Jake Cooper, who played offensive line here. He is full-time staff this year. Lex Ward, who was Alexa Sams, played basketball here. She's back here. She's on full-time staff, and we have a staff team. And so I'm excited to just go after our vision. Our vision is that we dream a day that there's a Christ follower on every team, in every sport, in every nation. So we have a partnership country in Jamaica where what we're doing here, we want to replicate in Jamaica.
For their sports teams.
For their sports teams.
Wow.
So we go to these 2 campuses in Kingston, UTech and UE. It's one of those campuses where Usain Bolt trains at.
Oh, that's awesome.
So sports huge in Jamaica, just like it is here. And so we want to replicate what we're doing here there, but we really want to go after and build up here. We really want to see, I have 3 staff. I would like to have a staff person for every sports team. I would like to have, raise up a day where there's a me on every team that could go after and serve coaches and athletes in that way. And so we have that vision. We also, in our area, right down the road at Savannah State, historically black college university, we have a heart for oneness where we want to go after teams and people and show what the true gospel is bringing people together no matter what skin color you are. So we have a heart for I would love to see what we're doing here at Savannah State University. I would love to just see ways that in athletics, how we could raise up laborers who could go serve coaches and athletes. And our whole motto in doing that is win, build, send. We're all about win, build, send. So we want people to be won to Christ, build up in their faith, and send out. The ultimate goal is I could have an athlete leave college and he can go knock on a pastor's door and say, Pastor, I can serve, I can lead a Bible study. How can I help you in the church? And so that's the ultimate win for us, because it's what I tell athletes, and I was one of them. I've been through it, but there's so many people that care about what you do on the field. I care about who you become off the field. I care about one day you're going to have a wife, have a husband, have a family. What are you doing now to build and be ready for that season of your life? And so that's the part and so one of my greatest joys is officiating weddings for athletes. And so I love it. I love the life on life part, is that it's just not time here, but it's watching them grow to be, to grow up and be husbands and fathers and productive business people in the world.
That's right. How do people become involved? You support your sports community immensely. How do people then come about and support you?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. So we have a team where we call them our advisory teams. We call them life partners. So if somebody really wants to get in the nitty gritty with us, we look for the acronym LIFE. So some people who could labor and serve with us, we have different things that they can do. They could go with us to an ultimate training camp and help out. They could. We've had people go with us for our spring break mission trips. So Aya's influence is they could help influence with their different abilities and giftings. F is finances. We need finances to do what we do. We have people that support us $25 a month, and some people that support us $1,000 a month, and it's really just helping us go after. And it's what I always say is like, if you love Georgia Southern Athletics and you love the Lord, that is the heart and soul of what we do. And so people financially give for that to make happen. And then lastly, E is expertise. Influence is who do you know that we don't, that you would want to connect us with, and expertise is, man, there are certain people that God has gifted to be really good at certain things. So how can you use your expertise and help serve us to reach our goal and vision? And so that's kind of that's one way to be life partners. Also is we do a banquet every year. This year, God willing, we're going, it's called a Night with the Eagles banquet, February 24th.
Okay.
We have a special guest coming in. We have a Christian comedian named King Kington, who graduated from Georgia Southern. He's going to be the keynote speaker that night. So it'll be a lot of fun. But that banquet is there to fundraise for our campus operations and our mission trips. So it cost us, around $1,200 an athlete to go on these mission trips after spring break. And a lot of our athletes do a great job of fundraising themselves. We have some of them that just don't have the background or the capabilities of doing that. And so really the money we raise that night helps funds our missions, helps funds Bibles, helps funds when we, some of the things that athletes, all they have time to do is eat a meal sometimes and get a meal. And so a lot of our Bible studies and discipleship groups is based around food. Well, we raise money to do that so they could, come and have a bite to eat after practice, and we can get in the Word, and they can get on their way to study hall and other things. So a lot of the stuff we do is just raising funds to kind of help sustain what we do here. So, but that is coming up February 24th this year. But those are some just key ways that people could help.
Yeah.
join.
So how do people stay connected? Instagram.
Yeah,
website.
we're on Instagram. We're on Twitter.
What's
Facebook,
the Instagram handle?
Georgia Southern AIA.
Okay.
So same on Twitter, and then you could go and we have a website, georgiasouthernai.com, and you could go enter your info. We could put you on a mailing list, so get you plugged in, get you going, seeing kind of the stories of what goes on behind the scenes. And so there's different ways like that people could join in.
Matt, loved what you said about people always focus on what the athletes are doing on the field. But what your organization is doing is preparing them for what happens off the field. I think that mission statement is so important because, it doesn't matter what you're doing, like when you have your 5 seconds of fame, right? Or whatever. Even if it goes for more than that, at the core of it, your foundation has to be correct. And I think ultimately, as an organization, you guys are doing great work.
Well, that means a lot. So listen, it is not me. I'm just a good old country boy from Hazelhurst, Georgia, that the Lord has put in this position, and I just want to be the one word I always say that epitomizes what I believe is just to be faithful. Be faithful with what the Lord has entrusted to me and be a good steward of it, and then let Him do the rest.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming to the show. And you guys know where to go to follow. And looking forward to everything that you guys are going to accomplish in the future.
Adam, thank you, my man.
Thank you.
It, brother.
Appreciate it.